Howdy, and welcome to the Lost Rider Podcast. It's an honor and privilege to address you in the capacity of an interviewer, reporter, and media member. Too many modern media outlets have forgone the integrity and responsibility required of credible information sources. What you will receive here are straightforward discussions with legislators, agency leaders, biologists, engineers, doctors, and countless other experts that have the answers to questions often circulated as kitchen table issues. The title Lost Rider may be thought of literally as well as in the metaphorical sense. While there has been the instance that I was momentarily a little turned around at night in a wilderness area, the idea of being a lost rider in life, well, that fits most folks at some time. These renderings are coming to you in the form of the 25-year-old radio program, The News from the Camp House. It still airs every Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. Central Time on KULM 98.3 FM out of Columbus, Texas. The original intent was to relate outdoor topics to the general public. Immediately, it was found that all issues are relatable to the outdoors and that people are people. They all play a role and they all have a vested interest. It's this program's desire to answer common questions about how the world works, how it will operate in the future, and what's the holdup? So please listen, enjoy, and never hesitate to contact us with more questions and feedback. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House, listening post of the Texas Sportsman Association. This is Herman Brun. This weekend's edition is also brought to us by the Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club folks who don't have a country club. All right, we're sitting here this weekend. We have the House District 85 State Representative here with us. He's in the middle of a campaign. He's getting everything ready. We've got primaries coming up. He's got a challenger this time, and we're going to talk about what's going on in past sessions and what they look forward to coming up, what they want to get done, and just how the world's treating them. All right, so Stan Kitzman. Stan, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well, Herman, and it sure is good to be back here with you on the radio.
All right, okay. Austin and the Capitol up there, these sessions, they're taking on a little bit different tone. We've seen a big shakeup in Washington. We've seen the Doge stuff going on in Washington. There's a lot of people like to see the same thing going on in Austin. I don't know what's it look like? What's the atmosphere over, what's the atmosphere over there? The budget keeps growing and people worry about that. So I'm going to let you fill us in a little bit.
Well, one thing I like to tell people, because I do think it's important to make a distinction, that in spite of all our warts in Austin, we're not Washington, D.C. Okay. And we don't want to be Washington, D.C. So Texas Monthly will never run out of things to write about the Texas legislature, and there's always going to be plenty of characters there to help them fill their articles. But in general, the Texas legislature does work to get things done for the people of Texas, and I'm pretty proud to be part of that.
All right. Okay. All right. One of the things and we talk about it quite a bit amongst ourselves, let's talk about property taxes a little bit. Folks are really upset about property taxes. Don't like having to rent their home from the government. And, they look at it as kind of a form of theft. I've been watching this stuff now for 25 years, and one of the things that we've heard candidates repeat over and over is when there's a surplus, nobody can spend the taxpayers' money as well as the taxpayers can. And that money's supposed to go back to them. Of course, I don't know how that works either. How do you give them their money back? Because I also know that when I interview state agency directors, prior to a session, they're all vying, trying to get their cut of the pie too. They're trying to get a little bit more of that bonus. So Explain that atmosphere.
Well, as a second-term legislator that's had a surplus both sessions, the old-timers say, man, it's hard to be a legislator when you have a surplus, because when you don't, when the economy's bad, you can just tell them no. And we do. The management of the Texas budget is restricted constitutionally and by statute. We meet all those measures. We don't exceed that. Texas is required in our Constitution to pass a budget every year. If we don't do anything else but pass a budget, we could do that and go home. That's the one thing constitutionally we have to do. But at the same time, it has to be a balanced budget. We don't get to do what they do in Washington. So every session, your Texas budget is balanced. Under the Republican leadership, especially the last two sessions, we've made sure that we still well below the caps that are set, again, both constitutionally and statutory, to make sure we're not exceeding that limit. Now, that being said, you're correct. The budget is bigger, but the demands from the people of Texas is bigger. We've got, according to the Comptroller's Office, 1,200 people a day moving to Texas. That's more than one new Colorado county every 6 weeks. And the requirements both in, and let's just take law enforcement or EMS or emergency management, or certainly on roads and other services, increases with that, and we have to meet those needs. Now, again, I think through the conservative leadership, we've been real careful about how we do that. I sit on the Sunset Commission. There's only 5 members of the House on that, 5 members of the Senate, and 2 civilian members that review. Every state agency gets their turn at least once every 12 years. It's staggered, but Department of Public Safety goes through the Sunset Commission, just pick it. I mean, Criminal Justice, Animal Health Commission, all those people go through the Sunset Commission, and we either decide whether they should be eliminated, whether they should be combined to be more efficient with another agency, or there's some reforms we need to make through the new law that would be coming up in that session to make them more efficient and more accountable to the taxpayers. And so Sunset is pretty important in the Texas budgetary process, and it's a good deal to be part of that. Now, Texas does not collect property taxes, so most of our revenue comes from sales tax and, of course, from oil and energy. So doing things to lower your property taxes, we all get our property tax bill too, and I guarantee I don't like mine. But $51 billion was spent in this last budget, taking from that surplus to pay down local property taxes. And I'd also like to point out that when the state gives a grant to your local EMS or to the ESD or to the sheriff's office for more equipment, that's taking sales tax money and giving it to the local government that usually charges property taxes, so they don't have to raise your property taxes to match that stuff. So these new ambulances that are costing $300,000, when the Forest Service gives a grant for that, that's Texas helping keep your property taxes lower. Now, or is it cured? Absolutely not, and we're not through with that. We've made big strides the last 2 sessions especially. I think you'll see that this next session, the governor has a goal to drive property taxes down even more, hopefully with the goal of being zero, especially on your school taxes. The lieutenant governor has a similar goal, as is typical. They have different visions of how to get to the same point. And so it will be up to us in the legislature to work with the lieutenant governor and the governor to find the solution that continues to push those property taxes down so that your burden is less. And I'll just bring up again, the citizens were able to vote, but the legislature put it on the ballot, to once again increase your homestead exemption. And so if you're a senior now, your homestead exemption is $200,000. If you're a small business, we went to an exemption there for $125,000. That's unprecedented. That wasn't happening like that before. But no doubt we're not through looking at what we can do with property taxes. I do think that from a practical standpoint, it can't all be eliminated in one fell swoop, because what are your local governments going to do for the revenue that's required? I mean, you can take Colorado County itself. Your county judge and your commissioners work on their budget every year. They watch the dimes and the pennies. As those demands increase, where are they supposed to get that money? That's the formula that's got to be worked out between them and the state. School taxes, the governor has made it his goal that the state should be paying 100% of the M&O on your school taxes. So you as a citizen won't have to pay the biggest part of what your property tax bill is anyway. I think all the Republicans are on board with that. I believe there'll be a few Democrats on board with that. It certainly will take a constitutional amendment, which requires 100 votes. So there's going to have to be some cooperation there somewhere to get that. And I just remind you that those items, like your homestead exemption, that took 100 votes to get that on the ballot, and the votes were there, and that's why you had the opportunity to vote on that. We're going to keep fighting property taxes, and it is. And I'll use schools as an example. Mm-hmm. And in the 1830s, and we'll pick 1836 because we all know what that means. Mm-hmm. Texas decided they wanted public education. I will say they haven't found a way to pay for it since. Every session has to go back and face how they're going to pay for schools. And in the case of the Texas budget, Article 3, which I'm the chairman of that committee, as a sophomore no less, Article 3 is the biggest part of the Texas budget. And 70% of your Texas budget, which is over $300 billion, is health and human services and education. Mm-hmm. DPS and all that comes out of a smaller pot than those two things that require so much on our budget. But still, to go ahead and let the state accept more and more of your what would be a property tax burden, especially on schools, I guarantee that's a goal of the Republicans, and we're going to be shooting for that this next session.
All right. One of the questions, because we keep getting these reports that, let's get into this in the second half, that education is we're spending a lot of money on education, but it keeps dropping, that these kids are falling out, that they're not reaching their potential. And we got to figure out, how do we keep throwing money at something and raise the bar? I'll tell you what, that'll be the question. That's how we'll start the second half. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning. Thank goodness for all the great sponsors we have here at News from the Camp House. H-E-B Food Stores. That's Stephen Tice at H-E-B. He helps me. He helps the community. He's a great man. I'm so thankful H-E-B loosened him up, lets him go around and sponsor a few things. H-E-B's got all your food needs. It's the greatest food store we got here in Columbus. Thank goodness for H-E-B. First State Bank. You go over to the First State Bank, they'll take care of all your loans, all your deposits, your savings, anything you need. Bunch of great hometown people over there. You got Celia Tobias, John Pollock. Everybody over there is looking out for you. Miss Barbara Barta. It's a great bunch of folks at the First State Bank is also sponsoring News from the Camp House. First State Bank takes care of all my business. Baumgart Agency, Susan Baumgart at the Baumgart Agencies, her and Germania. She told me to plug Germania. Germania is an insurance that she likes everybody to know about. The Baumgart Agencies. Miss Susan and I are classmates, been classmates. She got me out of high school, sat right beside her, put us in alphabetical order where I could copy. And Susan Baumgart over at the Baumgart Agency, taking care of all your insurance needs. Lyco Realty, one of the original sponsors of News from the Camp House. Lyco Realty, the oldest real estate company in the county, and for the last 3 years voted the favorite realtor in the county. Lyco Realty, that's Miss Kimberly Johnson. That's Crockett's granddaughter. More kinfolks and classmates and great people from Colorado County. People from Colorado County helping people from Colorado County. That's great. Oh, thank goodness for all these wonderful people come to me want to be sponsors for News from the Camp House. Good morning. Welcome to the second half of this week's News from the Camp House. Okay, we're with Stan Kitzman, our state rep. We were talking about we were talking about property taxes. Now we're talking about education. and the rising cost of education and the falling of the academic standards. So how do we raise the bar and get more bang for our buck?
Well, of course, again, this is a concern of people across the state. We want our young people to be educated so they are responsible citizens who can take care of themselves and their families when the time comes. No matter what career or path in life they choose, we want somebody that can be educated enough to do whatever they wish to do. So public education is how Texas decided they wanted to do it. I find it interesting that home-taught people like Sam Houston and Davy Crockett still thought that public education was a good idea. And we want an electorate that's informed and educated, understands basic economics, understands basic history, and so on and so forth, so they can make wise decisions at the polls as well. But that being said, where are we today? And as I've said before, is one of the most conservative sessions in Texas history. Education was at the forefront of this last session. And Dr. Buckley worked very hard as the chairman of public education to come up with something that would work, that was practical, and would raise the standard for the children of Texas. That was not without a lot of anguish and gnashing of teeth. I can assure you that the Capitol was full of people on every side of that issue, and there was more than two, to discuss this, see what's happening, and try to produce a product that was, some people wanted status quo. Some people wanted to go farther to what I would say the left and the philosophy of what their education idea was. But we said we need to go back to the right, which is giving these children the basics that they need, reading, writing, arithmetic, and being able to perform those tasks satisfactorily by third grade, so they can go on to study the harder subjects later on and have the confidence to pass that when they get to it in junior high and high school. One of the shining moments here, and this was passed the previous session, is the Bluebonnet curriculum. And if you haven't heard of that, I encourage you to go look at it and see how it's being implemented across the state. More and more districts are adopting it. It's still kind of up to the district to decide, again, with local control, to decide how they want to, what curriculum they want to follow. But the Bluebonnet curriculum is completely prepared by the Texas Education Agency in the state with a very conservative bent for those that are concerned. I mean, we get to talk about the basic tenets of the Bible and the Ten Commandments in the classroom, which, by the way, is required now in each classroom. But that's not the main point. The main point is we get back to the basics. They're learning cursive again. They're getting back to less screens and more actual interaction with paper and pencil and each other. And I saw a demonstration of this just this week in one of our local school districts. And there was resistance at first, some from the professional educators, some from the administrators, some from the public, certainly some from the school boards. But they've implemented this, and they found out that with the state curriculum that provides them the materials they need, so teachers have more time to prepare to teach the subject instead of creating all the ancillary stuff that they need, actually give the teacher more time to prepare, give a conservative-based curriculum and slant to what we're going to teach. They're getting back to reading the classics in school. We're going back, like I said before, to even teaching cursive to the very young ones, but having them ready to read and write by third grade on grade level, and it's working. That's the big news out of this. The Bluebonnet curriculum, where it's adopted through the mentoring of teaching coaches and through the materials provided by the state, are helping these teachers be in the classroom, engage with their students, and actually imparting the knowledge person to person, like I think God intended us to do. Right. And it's making a difference. Our reading scores are up. Our math scores are up where this is being implemented, and I think as it spreads across the state, we're going to have a lot more positive outlook on our Texas education. So changes are being made. That's the bottom line.
All right. Okay. No, that's encouraging. That's certainly encouraging. Okay. Now, correct me if did you not just say something a minute ago about something taking 100 votes?
Well, in the House, there's 150 members.
Right.
That comes from 150 Psalms, by the way.
Okay.
The Senate's 31 senators because there's 31 Proverbs. So we've been integrating some of these principles even into our state constitution for a very long time. But anyhow, it takes 150 votes. So to pass a typical bill, you have to have 76 votes.
Right.
All right. But to pass a constitutional amendment, okay, like changing how we do taxes, especially, a good example is your homestead exemption that people got to vote for. That took 100 votes to get that on the ballot. To pass the budget, that statute, that is required to have 100 votes, two-thirds. Okay. And so the members of the legislature have to work together in some semblance to reach these goals. And yes, sometimes it can lead to longer nights and a little more wringing of hands. Mm-hmm. But in the end, you find that I think a lot of legislators, again, want what's good for the people of Texas. Lower taxes is good for every district in the state, and it's good for all our citizens. And that's what we've been working on. But that's where that comes from. It takes 100 votes.
All right. Well, then, all right. Okay, because a lot of people are asking questions, the bipartisan stuff, they get tired of that. They people say, no, we're Republicans. We own the majority. We should just be able to do everything. But this addresses that.
Well, and I do want to say, and I hope people will go back and look a little bit. It's true. The Republicans have the majority. This session we had 88. I think there's some concern that number is going to drop here in the midterms. But let's just say 88. Well, 88 from 100, and my Aggie math says that leaves 12 left over. Mm-hmm. You had to get 12 people from the other party to agree enough to vote for those issues. All those ballot items that passed overwhelmingly across the state took 100 votes. And I'm going to go back again and say, at the risk of some people not fully understanding, we're not Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. Now, there's things that we know we're not going to agree on. When we got ready to increase the penalties for abortion or ban the abortion pills from being brought in by mail, certainly the one party was on one side and one party was on the other. When it came to banning men and women's sports, that was down the line. When it came to making sure perverts are not in women's restrooms, that came down the line. When it came to defining a woman, that came down. So those issues, we know we're going to be straight down the line. Another important thing that we need to consider, especially where we live, it's not always R versus D. It's rural versus urban. Mm-hmm. And we're going to find that in a big way apparent to a lot of people in this coming session when we start talking about water and who owns water and who's going to be able to control water, because the thinking on that is going to get outside the normal paradigms and paradox this next session. And we're going to see some real let's just say animated discussion of the future of water and who owns it in Texas. And so, again, that's going to be a rural versus urban issue because the big cities have their needs and requirements. Mm-hmm. Those of us out here in the country have our needs and requirements and want to look to our future and will there be enough water? And water is probably the issue. Of all the other things we talk about, water is what's looming over Texas, and where we're going to get enough water is it water we can use. And closely tied to that, though, is energy. It's going to be hard to get more water without energy, and it's going to be hard to get more energy without water. Mm-hmm. And there's more demands on both as our population increases and our business opportunities increase. And that's why the people of Texas voted to spend $1 billion a year for the next 20 years to not only fix water infrastructure that we have that's losing a lot of the water that we do have, but also to develop these new sources of water, whether it's desal or using produced water or whatever, to supplement the groundwater that we don't need to be depending on as much anymore because it's becoming more scarce.
All right, in our area, now this is another question. In our area, of course, we always talking about the LCRA, and correct me if I'm wrong, but LCRA is the only river authority with no elected positions on the board of directors. And people would like, your rural people would certainly like to be more, and we don't even know our board of directors, but they feel like there should be some of them elected from some of the rural areas.
I mean, that's a tough one to comment on, in that LCRA was set up, a long time ago. I don't remember the exact date, but it's been operated, you're correct, the governor appointing the members of the board. But there's some members of the board right here in this community, and I think that information's available pretty readily on the website, and I know of at least two of those gentlemen that are out in the community and not very hard to find.
Okay, the LCRA is one of the bunches that we love to hate on down here.
We all like it when the lights come on.
Yeah, we do, but I mean we don't, all you got to do is look at that river right now.
That's right.
It's not the river that we grew up with. It's in Austin.
One of our prime concerns in House District 85, and certainly of mine, and I think we lived up to that this last session, leading the way on water, but also agriculture, is it's hard to explain to rice farmers in Colorado County why they can't get water out of the river when we're worried about who can jet ski on Lake Travis. And I get that. It's hard to explain to people why they can't get water out of the Brazos River over near Waller County and that when people are watering their lawns in thunderstorms in Sugar Land. And so there are those issues. I'm going to say again, I don't think we're even really comprehending how big the discussion on water and water use is going to be this next session. We thought this session was a water issue. Certainly passing Proposition 4 was huge. We've been working on that. I say we, the state of Texas, the people of Texas have been working on that for decades to finally get this money set aside to work on water infrastructure and new sources of water was a major step forward. And the people of Texas voted for that overwhelmingly. But the discussion this next session, hold on to your pants, because I think you're going to see something like you haven't seen in Texas. The old adage is, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. I hope there's not any blood, but it's going to be some rough discussions over that.
All right. Any last comments?
Just been a honor to be here with you today. I appreciate having the opportunity to come visit with you. Serving the people of House District 85 is my deep honor. I'm thankful every day that I have this district of Colorado and Austin and Fayette counties, but Waller and Wharton, and as well as part of Fort Bend County. We have a great part of the state. I'm an old 300 descendant, and to have the heart of Stephen F. Austin's first colony as my district, to have San Felipe de Austin is the colonial capital right there near where I live, and to be able to represent these people is a high honor and privilege, and I thank you for your time today.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, folks. That's Stan Kitzman. That's House District 85 State Rep. Okay. So hope you got some information out of this today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something. Hope you learned something. So now, this weekend's edition was also brought to us by the Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club folks who don't have a country club. Now go out and have a big weekend. Go enjoy yourself, have fun, be safe, and y'all just remember, pretty much any day is sure a good day to be out in the woods.